I'm delighted to accompany you in today. If a top scientist, once a Nobel laureate, suddenly stood up to warn of a global catastrophe on July 5, 2025, would you believe it? This is not a blogger, not a fortune teller, nor some rain tiger prophet, but Zhou Cuneo, the renowned Japanese quantum physicist who has dedicated his life to orthodox scientific research. And even has a physics equation named after him, the Zhou equation, published by the American scientific societies themselves. However, what shocked both the intellectual and general public is that he not only studies quantum physics but also predicts a shocking disaster will occur precisely on July 5, 2025, with information coming from both NASA and high-level insiders in the US government. What's even more terrifying is that what he knows is more specific and detailed than the prophetic dream of Tatsuki, the manga author of. So, who exactly is Zhou Cuneo? Why would a seemingly purely rational scientist step into the world of prophecies and aliens? This video. Dawn. What's even more terrifying is that what he knows is even more. First, let's look back at the extraordinary life of Zhou Cuneo, who once saw a UFO and invented the famous physics equation. Zhou Cuneo was born in 1951 in Okayama Prefecture, Japan, and is now 73 years old. He's called a prodigy because his life is filled with strange events far beyond the ordinary. In fact, he didn't. The story began when he was in second grade of elementary school. One afternoon around 5 o'clock, he and a friend were riding bicycles near home. Suddenly, an unidentified flying object, a UFO, appeared from the northwest sky, shaped like a large cigar or Noah's Ark, silently drifting by without making any sound. Because the UFO was so large, even though it flew quite far, he and his friends saw it very clearly and immediately chased it on their bikes that couldn't catch up. The object disappeared on the eastern horizon, and since only the two of them witnessed it, no one else believed their strange story. UFO in space. Only then did he realize that others had seen it too, and someone had even photographed it. From then on, he became intensely fascinated with UFOs and aliens because he had seen one with his own eyes. Every night, he would sit and look up at the sky, hoping to witness it again. However, in the following years, he never had another chance. When he entered university, Cuneo decided to pursue UFO research, thinking the field closest to UFOs was astronomy, so he applied to Tohoku University for astronomy. But after starting, he found that astronomy didn't study UFOs and was quite disappointed. The major also had poor job prospects. Graduates usually had only two choices: switch to physics or continue for a PhD to do research. That's top physics university, which had trained Japan. At Kyoto, he started a master's program, but at that time, it was called a preliminary PhD, while the official PhD program was called a postgraduate PhD. When he began, he was only 23 years old, and his advisor was Japan's first Nobel laureate, Yukawa Hideki. Professor Yukawa was famous for his research on atomic nuclei. He once raised a question few noticed. In the nucleus, there are protons and neutrons. Protons carry a positive charge, so why don't they repel each other but instead cluster in the nucleus? What holds them together? not electromagnetic force, but another type of force, stronger than the electromagnetic force, which opened the door to modern nuclear physics. Cunio's teacher, Professor Yukawa Hideki, is a monument in Japanese physics. He is famous for his hypothesis of a strong nuclear force, a force much stronger than the electromagnetic force, capable of keeping positively charged protons from repelling each other and highly confining them in the atomic. Yukawa believed that to transmit this force, there must be an intermediate particle, which he named the proton. According to his theory, this particle had a mass about 200 times that of an electron. At that time, such a particle had never been discovered. It was a pure prediction. But something strange happened. 12 years later, in 1947, British physicist Cecil Powell discovered a completely new particle in cosmic rays. This particle had a mass about 273 times that of an electron. After verification, scientists confirmed this was the particle Yukawa had predicted, the proton. Thanks to this revolutionary predictive theory, Yukawa became the first Japanese person to win the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1949. Strangely, Powell, who discovered the proton particle, also received the Nobel Prize the following year, in 1950. Many wondered, shouldn't the discoverer deserve the prize? Why Yukawa first? Actually, the value of a theoretically grounded prediction is the decisive factor. Yukawa didn't just guess. He built a rigorous theoretical system and predicted the existence of the proton before it was found. This is no less valuable than an experimental discovery. Rapid growth theory. It bears a strange resemblance to modern quantum gravity theory, which posits that the universe is made of countless quantum units. Similarly, the rapid growth theory suggests the world consists of countless rapid growth units. These small space blocks contain quanta in their quantum states, continuously jumping between blocks, creating the entire reality. At age 25. After that, he continued his PhD in physics at Nagoya University. However, during his studies, he grew increasingly bored with physics. Though he saw it as great, he was always searching for something else. He wasn't. He realized that even top Japanese universities didn't seriously study UFOs. So he decided to try his luck abroad, sending letters to various universities, introducing himself as a physicist with research and hoping to be hired as a lecturer or to continue his studies. And then, a surprise came. The University of Geneva in Switzerland sent a formal invitation, asking him to come and teach, even though he hadn't completed his PhD. Normally, it takes 3 years, but he graduated in just 2 years. At that time, Cunio was only 27 and arrived in Switzerland. He was shocked to find the salary here extremely high. The teaching assistant salary in Geneva was 7 times that in Japan. With such a large income, he quickly bought himself an old Italian sports car, a Lancia brand, compact and cute, as if it had stepped out of a cartoon. And so began his days of roaming around Europe, enjoying a leisurely life with a light job, high salary, and not much to do. Then a strange turning point occurred. One day, he received an invitation from the University of Sisson in Germany, which knew that a last disciple of Tsukawa was in Europe and very much wanted him to come for research and academic exchange. He immediately agreed because Germany was a place he always wanted to visit, with its highways having no speed limits, and he wanted to test how fast his sports car could go. As soon as he entered German territory, he floored the accelerator, the car's speed increasing until the body began to shake. The wind whistled deafeningly, scenery blurred past his eyes, and then the car exceeded 200 kilometers per hour. Something unimaginable happened. Everything suddenly became quiet, no engine noise, no sound, no wind, only absolute silence, as if time had stopped. The scenery continued to pass by, but all in a surreal space. In that moment, he panicked, thinking he might have just died. But immediately, a mathematical formula appeared before his eyes, floating in midair, so clear he had never seen such a formula before. Too shocked, he immediately hit the brakes. As the speed decreased, all the sounds returned, and the formula disappeared. He quickly pulled into a nearby hotel to rest, the strange hiddish still echoing in his head. He opened a bottle of wine, drank a glass, and lay down. But the moment he closed his eyes, that formula appeared again. This time, he jumped out and immediately took pen and paper to record it. After some observation and analysis, he realized this might be an expression related to stochastic mechanics, a field he was very knowledgeable about. He began reasoning from that formula, and after just 30 minutes, he derived the Schrödinger equation, the foundation of modern quantum mechanics. Something beyond imagination, he didn't research the equation, he was shown it. The formula that Giosuè Cuneo saw in that surreal moment wasn't one that could be deduced from other physical theorems. It was like 1 + 1 = 2. No one deduces it, people simply recognize it or define it as a fundamental principle. All subsequent calculations are based on that foundation. Not only that, that formula belonged to classical mechanics yet could derive quantum mechanical equations. This meant he had built a bridge connecting classical physics and quantum physics from a single formula. This was what left the physics community astonished. The next day, during a presentation at Gießen University in Germany, Giosuè Cuneo recounted that experience. He hid nothing, describing how he saw the formula while driving and then directly demonstrated the entire process of deriving the Schrödinger equation on the spot. When he finished, all the physics professors in the auditorium stood up and applauded. They were truly conquered. Have you published this formula in a paper yet? You must publish immediately. Those who heard today might claim the credit. Finding this reasonable, he immediately drove back to Geneva. Within a week, he wrote and submitted a paper to the American Physical Society and American Mathematical Society, two organizations with the strictest review processes, typically taking 2 years to respond with extremely low acceptance rates. But a miracle occurred. Just 2 months later, both committees accepted and published it. Furthermore, they named the formula the Giosuè equation after him. With just that single formula, Giosuè equation became a globally famous physicist, and that formula became his lifelong legacy. After that, he never saw any other formulas. But what happened to him made people think of Ramanujan, the Indian genius who claimed the mathematical formulas he wrote were revealed to him by gods in dreams. However, even Ramanujan never possessed a unique formula like Giosuè equations, especially one that was immediately provable and applicable. When Giosuè equation became famous, he had opportunities to interact with top figures in the legal field, including those who had spoken at TID, a major conference gathering cutting-edge ideas in 3 fields: technology, entertainment, and design. Where does your formula come from? What surprised him more was that all those big shots said they had also seen their formulas in similar ways. No one actually rationally deduced those ratings themselves. They described a state of sudden insight as if the formulas appeared before their eyes. He publicized it because the current scientific community doesn't. Even Einstein's theory of relativity, the theorem about light, was seen rather than being merely a strict logical sequence. Giosuè Cuneo never believed he was a genius. He considered himself just lucky to see what needed to be seen at the right time. He never boasted or deified himself. On the contrary, he strongly opposed the modern education system because he believed everyone was stuffed into the same mold. According to him, when everyone studies the same things, results only depend on who works harder, who has more exercises, who gets higher scores. And thus people were pushed into an endless competitive spiral called the academic war. But Gyasu Kunio believed that greatness doesn't come from effort but from intuition, inspiration, and connection with something beyond science. He was a physicist but not the kind of scientist you might imagine.
But great achievement in life might come not from effort but from human nature itself. That was the belief of the famous Japanese physicist, Gyasu Kunio.
He believed that everyone should be guided by their instincts and natural interests.
If someone's passionate about something, let them pursue it, even if it seems like a waste of time. Because sometimes while having fun, people can discover great things they never thought of in their entire lives.
And if that thing is truly useful, just one discovery alone could sustain them for a lifetime.
After teaching for 4 years at the University of Geneva in Switzerland, in 1982 at age 31, Gyasu returned to Japan,
joining the Tokyo Institute of General Research as a researcher. However, the work here made him feel bored.
Soon after, he quit his job and returned to his hometown Okinawa, becoming a professor at a women's
named Danza Shen, a Christian university.
Here, he worked until his retirement in 2017. Remarkably, he was personally recommended by the Pope of the Vatican to become a professor at this school. And there, he was free to research any field he wanted. Right after taking the position, he began delving deeply into quantum mechanics and
particularly the connection between human consciousness and quantum physics, a topic he pursued for decades. And then, he revealed something shocking. A large-scale catastrophe could occur on May 7, 2025.
Initially, Yasu had heard about a prophetic dream by manga author Katsuki Wasaki. He predicted that a great catastrophe would occur in 2025, but he didn't pay attention. Until about 2 years ago, he received 2 independent and reliable sources, both pointing to the same conclusion. In 2025, a great catastrophe will arrive. When he synthesized that information, a comprehensive picture of the catastrophe emerged, with unbelievable detail. In Tatsuki's manga, the main character vaguely sees a bronze statue and a tsunami occurring at 4:18 a.m. in southern Japan.
At that time, no one was clear if it was morning or afternoon, but Yasu confirmed it was 4:18 a.m. Japan time.
And he knew this thanks to an acquaintance working at NASA who provided the information. According to this person, on July 5, 2025, a disaster will indeed occur, and the time has been estimated very accurately.
With his pre-literary knowledge, Yasu reasoned that if humans can predict an event 2 years in advance, the only possibility is an asteroid or stellar debris colliding with Earth.
He explained that phenomena like storms, earthquakes, or volcanoes cannot be predicted 2 years ahead. No matter how advanced current technology is, such disasters can only be forecasted a few days in advance or during their formation.
That's almost certainly a space object heading toward Earth. The NASA source only provided the specific time, not the cause, but Yasu speculated it. Not stopping there, another source, this time from within the US government, told him that at exactly 4:18 a.m. on July 5, 2025, Japan time, a tsunami would strike, and secret actions would occur simultaneously, possibly rescue or undisclosed military operations. Why July 5th? The answer lies in the time zone difference between Japan and the US specifically. 4:18 a.m. on July 5th, Japan time, is the afternoon of July 4th in the US, coinciding with Independence Day, one of the biggest holidays when the entire nation is off work. According to Yasu, senior US officials had been notified in advance about this event, and because it was a holiday, they secretly agreed not to interfere with anything happening that day. He stated that this non-interference agreement was established during President Biden's term, but after Donald Trump was re-elected, the agreement was revoked. This led to an important point. If the disaster is truly natural, like a meteorite impact or tsunami, no one can prevent it. A man-made event, such as a secret operation, military experiment, or staged political event, it. In summary, according to Yasu, whether the disaster occurs depends on whether its nature is natural or man-made. Yasu did not reveal the exact identities of his sources, which made many doubt their authenticity, but it's precisely because the agreements were revoked that he could freely disclose what he knew. However, he emphasized that, whether natural or man-made, he only shares what he was told and does not confirm anything definitively. His sole message he wants to convey is to stay vigilant and mentally prepared, as there are things beyond the understanding of mainstream science, and we are getting very close. After previously speaking about the 2025 prophecy, Yasu, the Japanese astrophysicist, was invited to several recent programs because this topic is causing a stir in Japan again. And this time, he brings a story compiled from various credible sources he has gathered over many years. He shared that each information source he accessed only holds a piece of the puzzle, with no single source describing the full picture of the 2025 disaster. Manga author Tatsuki Masaki only saw a disaster in a dream. The person at NASA only confirmed that a disaster would indeed occur and even provided the specific date and time. Meanwhile, a high-ranking figure in the US government mentioned some internal details the public has never known. When asked where the safest places are if the disaster occurs, Yasu replied that Hokkaido, Okayama, and Yamanashi have the highest survival chances.
Hokkaido is too far, and Yamanashi, despite its name sounding like it has no mountains, is actually a rugged, high mountain region, very safe. Okayama is more special because the Japanese government has long considered Tokyo a dangerous area.
So all national core data and infrastructure are backed up in Okayama as a backup capital. No one knows this, but Yasu does because he works at the Okayama Observatory,
which directly receives data and monitors asteroids to prevent large-scale celestial body impacts.
Perhaps that's why he chose to stay in Okayama his whole life and has never left since returning to Japan. Additionally, Yasu not only studies quantum physics but is also extremely interested in aliens and UFOs, and what he tells is stranger than science fiction. He asserts that aliens are completely real. Not only in the US but the former Soviet Union also had contact with them, and possibly many other countries have secret agreements. What about Japan? He's not sure, but he knows clearly that the Soviet Union indeed cooperated with them, especially early in the space race. According to some published sources, it was the contact with aliens that helped the Soviet Union become the most advanced in space technology at that time.
The aliens the Soviet Union encountered looked very similar to Nordic people, with blonde hair and blue eyes, completely unlike the Greys in the US.
It seems different regions of the world are approached by different types. Europe gets blonde and blue-eyed, America gets grays, Africa gets another type, and Asia gets a mix, with no fixed form. But the biggest difference between them and humans isn't in appearance but in communication. They don't use words but transmit thoughts directly through consciousness, a form of transmission where you see thoughts or images displayed in your head. Not just words but also images, technical diagrams, technology designs, or 3D data.
For example, in one contact, the aliens sent the entire UFO design directly into the Soviet scientists' heads.
Based on that drawing, engineers quickly built a flying saucer, but it had a problem. It didn't work. It was like a useless lug of metal. When asked why, the aliens replied, "It needs an Anastasia person." Anastasia is the name of a people living in the deep forests of western Siberia, a strange matriarchal tribe. The leader of this tribe is always a young girl, and from the day she becomes leader, she is called an Anastasia person.
This tribe lives completely isolated from the civilized world but possesses strong extrasensory abilities, able to connect with consciousness levels ordinary people cannot perceive. This information was later further confirmed in an extremely famous book series in Russia, called The Ringing Cedars of Russia,
written by Vladimir Megre, a Russian writer and entrepreneur. The first volume of this series is titled Anastasia, recounting the author's real encounter with a strange girl in the Siberian forests from 1994 to 1995. He recounts that while trading vegetables along the Siberian rivers, he got lost in a wild forest area with no human footprints. And there he met a young girl, living like a wild person, without clothes, without technology. But after just 3 days of living together, he discovered that she knew everything about the modern world, from the internet to artificial satellites. All understood without learning through any materials. That's why ordinary people cannot activate the spacecraft without an Anastasia person, because only those with a special spiritual form can interact with their technology. And it's also possible that this form of consciousness is why people like Giacomo Cugno can sometimes unconsciously see physics formulas in midair.
Something ordinary people could never create even with a lifetime of effort.
You might not believe it, but what Giacomo Cugno shared about aliens, UFOs, and psychic abilities far exceeds what modern science dares to disclose. In one conversation, he recounted that the woman from the Anastasia tribe had an extremely unique demeanor. He said her way of speaking was like that of a pure mother. From her, I learned many things, even though she had almost never left the forest where she usually lived. She is the guardian of the Anastasia tribe's spacecraft. How do people living hidden deep in the forest know everything happening in the world? The answer is, they possess psychic abilities similar to reading the Akashic records,
the soul data archive of the entire universe.
This ability is also similar to the future evolved humans that theorists have mentioned. They possess a special sensory organ that helps them receive information from other dimensions. When the Soviet Union made
Contact with aliens, they were given UFO blueprints through consciousness.
They built a flying saucer based on that, but it didn't work, just like a soulless metal shell. When scientists asked why, the aliens replied, "Every component of the ship has a soul. You only assembled the body but not the soul. And to connect the spacecraft's soul, they need a true Anastasia person, because only these people can empower the UFO with their own consciousness and spiritual energy." Under the guidance of the Anastasia girl, the flying saucer was connected to the correct consciousness level and flew for the first time. However, what truly amazed me was how Giacomo Cugno knew all of this. He said he didn't experience this information directly but heard it from a Japanese prophet named Akama Sukurin. When he first met her, she was just over 20 years old, while Giacomo Cugno was nearly 50, 30 years older than her. But at that time, in the 1990s, this young girl was famous in Japanese high society for her prophetic abilities through rap. Many prominent figures in Japan trusted and sought her out. Later, in 2020, she was suddenly murdered in Brazil during a robbery committed by a 19-year-old teenager. T publicly showed the victim. Before that, he also knew she was invited by the Brazilian government to research UFOs, as the Amazon region she visited had many strange sky phenomena. S research room and only said one sentence.
Then the woman intended to leave. Giacomo Cugno quickly pulled her back and asked for clarity, but she said nothing more. So how did Giacomo Cugno meet Akama Sukurin in the first place?
CEO from 1967 to 1982, the period when Toyota rapidly developed and became the world. What few know is that Toyota AG was extremely interested in UFOs, and he was the first to know Akama Sukurin. When he learned Giacomo Cugno shared the same passion, he introduced them to each other. If you have anything about UFOs you want to ask this girl. Can you sense the souls of plants, stones, and the bricks around you? If you can, Jia inside. He had been a purely rational scientist, but from that moment, he understood that what matters isn't knowledge, but the ability to perceive things invisible to the naked eye. And that is the essence of connecting with the universe, an ability that doesn't come from books, but from human spirituality itself. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the Shadow_Archives channel to support our channel, and subscribe to support your channel. And now, goodbye and see you again.